What's up everyone, welcome to the Toyota Owners 400 Top 5 DFS Picks video for Sunday, April 2nd at Richmond Raceway, another short flat track on the schedule for this weekend. And as always, I'm your host Chris Pennell. You can find me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16, and this video is presented by PrizePicks. In today's video, we're going over general track strategy, how to approach this slate from a DFS perspective, and my top 5 favorite plays on the slate. Now, please keep in mind this video is recorded pre-practice and qualifying, so some of my thoughts and opinions on these drivers could end up changing throughout the weekend. Although I do believe the drivers that were fast at Phoenix will be fast here at Richmond, so we do have some data to work with. But just make sure you stay up to date on what happens throughout the course of this weekend. And if you want the most up-to-date projections, analysis, and ownership projections, you can head over to stokastic.com and we'll have you covered. But anyway, as far as how we should approach this slate from a DFS perspective, short flat tracks in general tend to be very predictable. Phoenix was one of my best weeks of the season because the cars that were fast, you could tell over the course of the weekend. They were fast in qualifying, they were fast in practice, and they pretty much all did what you would expect. So I'm hoping there's more of the same here at Richmond this weekend. We already had a short flat track on the schedule this year at Phoenix. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of translation from who was fast at Phoenix will be fast once again at Richmond. You typically see the same types of drivers, same group of drivers running up front nearly every single short flat track. There is some give or take here and there, but for the most part, it's a lot of familiar faces. And one thing I will mention about short tracks, especially the short flat tracks, is that track position is pretty important. So drivers that are starting in the back might offer a lot of place differential upside, but a lot of times these can kind of be a bit trappy plays because for the most part, the fast cars are starting close to the front, and you're going to want the fast cars in your lineup, and it's a short track, so lots of guys are going to be going lap down, and you pretty much want to stick to drivers that you think can stay on the lead lap for the most upside. And also, with there being 400 laps on the schedule this week, this is the most laps we've had at any race this year. Dominators are going to be super important. You're going to want at least 2 per lineup, but I would like to stretch it to 3 and a good chunk if you can afford it. Just really depends on who the Dominators are going to be projected to be this weekend, because if they're all super expensive, it might be hard to fit in 3, but if we can find a mid-tier guy that has the potential to dominate, that's when we can start stretching it to 3. And I will mention that the tire fall off is huge here, so drivers that can manage their tires well, like Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, definitely do excel here. All right, so getting to the picks, we'll start with number 5. It's not a flashy driver, but he gets the job done. It's Austin Dillon, $7,200 on DraftKings, $6,500 over on FanDuel. Tends to not be bad at these high tire wear tracks, pretty good at managing his tires, and specifically at Richmond, he's had quite a bit of success here over the past few seasons. Looking at a 6-race sample size, we're talking 5 top 20s and 3 top 10s. And several seasons ago in a night race at Richmond, he actually got up front and dominated for a little bit out of nowhere. But I think Austin Dillon should have success here. His new teammate Kyle Busch has had a ton of success at Richmond, so I'm sure he can learn a few things from him over the course of this weekend. So Austin Dillon here at this price point, no matter where he starts, I'd actually kind of prefer if he's starting closer to the front so the ownership's a little bit lower, but I think he'll be a fine play in all formats. And then moving on to number 4, it's a driver that has always been good at the short flat tracks, obviously in a downgraded car these days, but they have been kind of rising for me in my rankings. But it's Keselowski of RFK Racing, $8,300 on DraftKings, $8,200 over on FanDuel. And looking at a 3-race sample size of Phoenix this year and the 2 Richmond races last season, Keselowski was in the top 15 2 out of 3 times and in the top 20 each and every single race with an average running position around 10th place. And honestly was looking like one of the better cars at Phoenix before having an issue with the final restarts where he finished outside the top 15. But besides that, we're talking another good finish for Keselowski at these track types, and he would be a perfect 3 for 3 finishing inside the top 15. So Keselowski and his teammate Chris Buescher, I think they'll both bring some speed. And I kind of hope they start near the front of the pack so the ownership's lower, but I think it'll be a fine play either way. And before we get into our next pick, I gotta mention the MLB is back, ladies and gentlemen. That's actually the promo that we were running this week over on the site. You can come celebrate the return of MLB with 50% off your monthly Stokastic Platinum subscription, available for new and existing customers. Click the link in the description, or use promo code MLB is back to take advantage of this limited time deal. With this, you get access to everything that we have over at Stokastic DFS, including projections, the ownership, lineup generator, the boom bust tool, and much, much more. So come and check it out. Again, that is promo code MLB is back to get half off your monthly Stokastic Platinum subscription. And moving on to number 3, we're going with Keselowski's teammate, who we just mentioned, but they're both priced right around each other. I think the price points, they might be fair, but in the mid-range, they do make some sense. Both guys, they can stay in the lead lap, stay within the top 10 no matter where they start. But it's Chris Buescher, $8,400 on DraftKings, $8K over on FanDuel, and some very similar numbers to Keselowski, which does make sense considering they're on the same team, so you'd expect them to run pretty similar for the most part. But looking at the 2 Richmond races last year and the Phoenix race this season, we have a top 5 for Buescher, a top 10, and the top 15 each and every single time. So I assume he's going to bring some speed, and at the short flat tracks, RFK has not been bad at all. I think that continues this week at Richmond. And moving on to number 2, it is really tight up top this week. Lots of drivers worthy of mentioning here, but we have to make some pickings here. And it's tough, but we're going to go with Kevin Harvick at number 2. The price is up exceptionally high this week compared to what we're normally at, but it's worth it once we kind of talk about it. So Harvick's at $10,800 on DraftKings. 13.5 over on FanDuel, currently with the second best odds to win this race over in Vegas, depending on which book you look at. But if you're looking at the past 3 races at 2022 Richmond and the Phoenix race this year, no one is averaging more DraftKings points per race than Kevin Harvick. No one's averaging more FanDuel points than Kevin Harvick. We're talking an average finish of a 2.7, a running position of 7.1, has a win, and in the top 5 each and every single time. And also the second most fast laps with a good chunk of dominator points as well. And honestly, he should have won that Phoenix race earlier in the season before late caution came out when he had a big lead on second place Kyle Larson. So Harvick, the king of the short flat tracks the past couple of seasons. He's really, really good at managing his tires, which is something you have to do at Richmond here. He won a Richmond race last year. So yeah, I'm having a hard time liking Kevin Harvick. Even though the price is up there, I certainly think he is worth it. And before we get into a number 1 play here, if you guys can do me a favor, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. We have tons of content on this channel that we'd appreciate you checking out, which I'm sure you already do, but if you don't and this is your first time here, it does go a long way and it'll help you stay up to date with everything we post on the channel. Anyway, getting into my number 1 play for the Toyota Owners 400. We oddly did not talk about one Toyota, so maybe I'm going against the script here from NASCAR, but I'm just going with the drivers that have been fast. And it's William Byron, $11,000 on DraftKings, $14K over on FanDuel, currently with the best odds to win this race over in Vegas. And it's hard to argue it. Byron's been fast just about each and every single race this year. He was the best car at Phoenix earlier in the season. Well, early on, I should say. He wasn't the best car at the very end, but he was still extremely fast. Led over 100 laps at a Richmond race last year. And looking at the series sample size that I'm looking at from 22 Richmond and the Phoenix race this year, he is 3rd in DraftKings points, average finish of 5th, has a win, 2 top 5s, and a good chunk of dominator points. I mean, I'm just going to continue with the trends here. Hendrick's been super fast. Byron's been fast every single week. I'm not sure whether that's going to change this week. He is currently the odds-on favorite to win this race. So assuming he doesn't screw anything up in practice and qualifying, Byron is definitely going to be a contender once again. Just to recap, at number 5, we have Austin Dillon, number 4, Brad Keselowski, number 3, Chris Buescher, number 2, Kevin Harvick, and number 1, William Byron. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys this week. Hope you did enjoy, and if you did, make sure you leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Make sure you check out promo code MLB is back, and link down below in the description to get half off your monthly Stokastic Platinum subscription. But I'm going to get out of here. Wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.